Hey folks, I thought you might find it useful to see how I use the schedule to plan my days. So I start by figuring out what time I'm willing to wake up and start working most mornings. And for me, that's going to be 7 a.m. So then I start filling in these hours until I get to the point where I have filled in all of the hours until I'm ready to go to bed, which is usually around 9 or 10 p.m. We'll say 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. just to make things a little easier. So I'm going to spend the next little bit filling these out, and we'll cut to the end when they're all done. Okay, so now I have all of my times blocked out in half-hour increments, and I have my days of the week. So the next step is to go through and start filling in things that have to happen at certain times of certain days of each week. Okay, so now you see that I've filled in my calendar with things that I know I have to do at specific times. For instance, here are the times when I'm going to be traveling to or teaching at Folsom Lake College. Here are times when I plan to be traveling to or teaching at Sierra College. Here are times when I pick up my daughter from school. Looks like I got this one wrong, so move that over. Times when I'm prepping dinner. Times when I'm at my daughter's soccer practice, other times when I'm prepping dinner, helping to get my daughter ready for bed, getting myself ready for the day, and so on. The next step is to fill in things that have to happen each week, but that I have a little bit of flexibility about when they happen. So I'll fill this in and then we'll jump to it. Okay, so now you'll notice that I've filled in the chart a little bit more. I've included things like weekly chores, which would then be, cleaning the bathrooms, washing the floors, that sort of stuff. I've included in time to do the grocery shopping each week. I've built in time to exercise, time to prep for teaching, time to respond to student work, time to grade or to hold at least a half-hour office hour every day. But you'll notice some of these are flagged, and that's because I usually like things to happen at the same time as much as possible every day because it makes the schedule easier to manage. So it looks like I've got time here at noon, so I can move these office hours down a little bit. So that's going to be a little better for me. And I still have the same problem with prepping. It looks like I want to be prepping to teach most days at 8:30, but I can't fit that in on on Mondays and Wednesdays. So that's going to have to go somewhere else. And I don't really have any time to do that before teaching. So it looks like I'm going to be getting up most days around 6:30. And doing some work then. Or I could try to find a different time to slot in that teaching. When that would be, I don't really know at this moment. I'm going to have to stop and think about it. But let's, just for the moment, let's imagine that we put that down here, which also means that on Friday, I'm going to be prepping for teaching on Monday. On Mondays, I'll be prepping for Tuesday. On Tuesdays, I'll be prepping for Wednesday, and so on and so on. I'm going to have to do a little bit of carryover, which isn't ideal, but it's workable. I also notice that I've got about an hour each day to respond to student papers. I know that realistically, that's going to take me more time. So I go back into the schedule and I look for other spots. So it looks like I've got some time here when I could reasonably do a little bit of responding to student work. That's going to work for me okay. And I have some more time over here. That'll work good too. And I've opened up this 7:30 to 8:30 hour so I can at least fit my exercise in at the same time every day, which is going to be better for me. Okay, so this schedule is starting to come together. It's starting to look pretty good. You'll notice I have some free time left on Fridays. I have some free time left on Saturdays and Sundays. It's pretty important to me that I keep a bunch of time available for my family. So I'm just going to block out the rest of Sunday with family, which lets me know that on Sundays I'm not planning on doing much besides spending time with the family, spending a little bit of time doing chores, and that's about it. And I know that my daughter is going to have soccer games on Saturdays, maybe in the morning, so I might have to move some of these times around. But I'm also going to fill in some time on Saturdays for family, which means that I get to spend most of my weekend doing fun stuff with my family, which is pretty cool. It also means that I know that if I have to change something around, like say something happens on a Monday that keeps me from doing some of the work I need to do on that day, as long as it's not the work that has to happen at a specific time, like teaching, I can move some of that off to Saturdays or Sundays if I'm willing to give up some of my family time. You will also notice that except for teaching and family time, I haven't assigned myself more than an hour solid to work on something. That's because I know that I work best in 1 hour chunks. If I try to work for 2 or 3 hours on a single project, usually I end up being less efficient and it ends up ultimately wasting time. So I'm going to make sure that where I can, I'm going to only schedule an hour at a time. And if I have to do the same thing twice, like say I need to respond to student papers again on Tuesdays, well, I'm doing it in the mornings and in the early afternoons, and then I have another slot here in the late afternoons I could use if I wanted to, and then another slot after dinner. So I could reasonably get in 4 hours of responding to student work in 1 hour chunks. That way I don't get burned out, but I still get a lot of work done. If you want to get really fancy with this list, you can color code it. So you could, for example, color code all the things that can't be moved around, like times when you're working or teaching, working or taking classes in one color, things that you can move around in another color. It's up to you. But the idea is that when you look at this schedule, you should have a pretty good picture about when you're going to do what work. If your schedule gets totally full or mostly full, and mine's starting to look pretty full, and I don't have time left to do things, then I have to decide, am I going to wake up earlier? Am I going to stay up later, or am I going to cut back on something? So one thing I noticed that I don't have anywhere here yet is guitar practice. So I'm going to add that in. So G prac. And it looks like I can fit in a half an hour of guitar practice most weekdays at 2 o'clock, which works pretty well. And it also means that if I wanted to, I could plug that in on Saturdays, or I could just remember that it's something I need to do sometime on Saturdays and Sundays. I hope you found this process useful. Having been a student just like you are, having held down full-time jobs and jobs that were well in excess of full-time, I can tell you that this sort of scheduling, in addition to having just a regular calendar where you note things like doctor's appointments and whatever else, but particularly this sort of scheduling is what helped me to get through it and made it possible for me to do more than I initially thought possible. It also helps me to figure out what exactly I could fit in. For instance, if I were going to try to teach another class at another school on a Monday schedule, and I knew there was a significant commute from Folsom Lake to that school, I would have to be willing to sacrifice a large block of time here, probably give up either fixing my family dinner or going to my daughter's soccer practice in order to make that work. And then I can decide if that's necessary and important enough to me to make those sacrifices. I hope you found this useful. I'm going to ask that you prepare this for our class, and then periodically through the semester, I'm going to ask that you check in, consider how closely you've been following it, decide if there are any changes that need to be made, and then share some of that feedback with me. So once you prepare this, keep it around. Have a good one.